It was thought that after all the bloody battles, Jinwoo, the Dark Emperor, could finally live a peaceful life. But what was the truth? No one expected that after going back in time, he would suddenly disappear. Not even his family knew the reason. And the son who inherited his bloodline, Suho, grew up surrounded by unsolved mysteries. Once again, the world fell into chaos. The supreme beings of another dimension. And this time, Jinwoo was no longer there to save the world. And our male lead, this time, will be Suho's son. The real story begins here. At the beginning of the story, a mysterious person recounts the omnipotent entities who created countless universes since ancient times, known as the Supreme Beings. The Supreme Beings are constantly searching for eternal life, while continuously creating new universes. In the process, countless matter, soul, and law were born. This cycle of repetition, the Supreme Beings gradually got bored and thought of a way to entertain themselves, which was to watch their creations fight each other. Humans were only seen as pawns on the chessboard. To the Supreme Beings, the destruction caused by their creations seemed quite interesting. That meant countless creations would have to fight continuously, die, be reborn, and repeat. That was necessary to fill the Supreme Being's boredom. And then, what had to happen happened. However, an accident happened. A Supreme Being was killed by one of the creations while observing the endless battle. The Supreme Beings of other dimensions, after hearing the news, gathered together to observe the world that had lost its master. The death of their comrade caused by a creation they had created. However, the Supreme Beings ignored it. They all had the same thought, and what they thought was that the power without an owner would belong to the first person to achieve it. One morning at a school, Suho arrogantly boasted, "I got into the Korean University of Arts." The two friends were stunned when they heard that. Impossible. He could hardly believe this truth, pounced on him. "How could a chicken like you get into that school?" Another guy cried, "And I have to try again next year?" Suho laughed. "Ha ha ha, I finally escaped this hell." Suddenly someone else came, making the atmosphere suddenly change. "Congratulations, Suho. I heard you got into the University of Arts?" "So it's Lee Uncheol. I didn't know you were so talented. When did you get so good? You seem to be too used to this." "Kim Seong-chol is you again?" He angrily growled. "Name's Lee Uncheol, not freaking Kim Seong-chol, okay?" But he calmly replied, "Oh, is that so?" The two of them talking back and forth. "Thanks to you, my plan to become the school boss was ruined." "Yeah, and I graduated thanks to you." The girls whispered. Yoon-cheol started again. She was worried. "We're about to graduate. Why is he still so immature?" Don't know." They looked at Sung Suho's calm expression. Why does he have to be so rude to someone who just lost his parents? Suddenly at this moment, Lee Yoon-cheol swung his fist, his mouth revealing an amused smile. Suho didn't let him do anything. He gave him a punch from his knee, then calmly said, "Why can't we get along before graduation?" For some reason, he suddenly widened his eyes in surprise. So it was. That person was still standing. Yoon-cheol's nose was already bruised, but his mouth smiled with delight and said, "What the hell?" Yoon-cheol at this moment clenched his fist. The strength was so great, it was as if there was a current of air around him, swung his punch, smirking and saying, "It doesn't hurt at all." He made a move that made Suho startled and dodged to the side. The locker immediately became the victim of the punch. Suho was scared by that terrible power. The girls were startled and stood up. The locker was now destroyed by Yoon-cheol. Dust and smoke flew out, from which a big hole was made. Even he himself was confused. Huh? Suho sat on the ground, bewildered, stunned, not understanding what was happening. It's been 2 years. A young man was now standing there, dumbfounded, welcoming the gentle breeze. It was none other than Sung Suho, walking on the street. Now a second-year university student. Suddenly, he noticed something on the side of the road. It was a small evacuation. "All classes in the main building. Please move to the annex building. Please move." He curiously walked closer. "The hunters are currently raiding the dungeon. Everyone is not allowed to come near." A man in a black suit asked, "How long has it been since the hunters entered?" The guard replied, "About 8 hours, because this gate is only rank D, so they will come out soon." Sung Suho stood in the middle of the crowd and the noise. "Come on! It's dangerous, everyone! Let's step back. Maybe I'm in the overthinking stage. What if they can't complete that dungeon? The hunters will definitely do it." His face was sad, slowly raising his head. Another gate? There was a shocking event in the past. The whole world changed completely 3 years ago, with the birth of gates. Monsters appeared in droves. Gates were the path leading to dungeons. Monsters in the dungeons would find their way out of the gates after a certain period of time. And there were some people who stood up to protect the survival of humanity. However, humans also gradually changed. It was as if we were born to confront them. Superhumans with the ability to control mana began to appear, called Awakened People. An organization was established. The chaos that everyone believed would last for a long time, along with the ever-changing world, was quickly quelled when an awakened person named Woo Jinchul created the Hunter Association to gather all the other awakened people with the name Hunters. Now, the world has been divided into awakened hunters and unawakened commoners. Suho sat in the drawing class, practicing. Each pencil line, each limb, was boldly imprinted on the paper, forming beautiful shapes. While some people had to work hard, like ants, to become rich, others were given food to their mouths. He had a very miserable time. This difference made those ants realize their limits, and the strong one, Yoon Kyeol, once again appeared in his memory. No matter how hard the unawakened people tried, they would never be able to close the gap between them and a rank E awakened person. His face was expressionless, his eyes were lifeless. The world would end if the hunters couldn't close the gate. In other words, while the unawakened couldn't live without the awakened could live normally without them. He kept moving the tip of the pen quickly. That's why everyone was grateful to the hunters. After all, aren't they the reason why unawakened people like us can live peacefully? The pencil strokes were evenly drawn, but a worry began to arise in my heart. Suho seemed to fall into deep thought. Am I getting used to having nothing? He thought about the images behind the pencil strokes. His parents were missing, his life was dependent on others. He also remembered the precious time with his friends, including the time when he thought he could do anything. After losing everything, a feeling of helplessness gradually rose in his heart. The image now consisted of thick pencil lines overlapping each other, and the back of a man appeared. Mom often said that the older I get, the more I become like Dad. So what will Dad do to escape this feeling of helplessness? Suddenly a voice called out, startling Suho. Suho? So that's Lindagun. You're concentrating well today. He replied, Yes, sir. He asked again, How can you enjoy drawing? Suho replied in confusion, I'm just drawing what comes to mind. Are you drawing ants? It looks creative. He added, hands on hips. Well, wouldn't it be more appropriate to call it an ant-man? Suho thought helplessly. Why am I drawing this? It was a monster with a black body, sharp claws, and a ferocious look. Right now, in the dungeon, the security guards are still on duty here. Everyone shouted when they saw someone coming out. The hunters were coming out. They looked extremely calm and had no problems. They looked so relaxed. They must have succeeded. A security guard came over to congratulate him. Good job, Hunter Kim Jong-soo. He replied, The dungeon raid was successful. Also, there's something I need to report to the Hunter Association. His expression seemed serious. We encountered a new type of monster. They were humanoid monsters with blue flames coming out of their eyes and mouths. They attacked with claws. However, the attack didn't do any damage. Since I was fine after being attacked by them, it probably wasn't much. But then someone interjected. They were still new monsters that we hadn't encountered before. I'm glad they're not dangerous. The other guy said, Then Hunter Kim Jong-soo, please send a simple report on what happened in this raid. On Kim Jong-soo's arm, there was a cut, and suddenly it burst into blue flames, like that of a monster. He paused, his whole body stiffened. He dropped his weapon, bowed his head, confusing the other guy. He called out, Hunter Kim Jong-soo, he spoke again. Brother! But before he could finish his sentence, Kim Jong-soo suddenly opened his mouth to take a bite of him. Blue sparks also appeared. In just a flash, the security guard was eaten, before everyone's bewildered eyes, because they didn't have time to understand what was happening. Everyone who witnessed this scene stopped. A female hunter muttered, The blue flames were like monsters in the dungeon. Kim Jong-soo opened his mouth again. The girl didn't have time to react and had the same fate as him, the security guard. Everyone was scared and started running away. Some hunters, from their open wounds, also started to burst into blue flames. Screams of fear echoed everywhere. Suho, who was in the classroom, also heard those screams. Everyone started to pay attention and went towards the glass door. What happened? What was that? However, after witnessing the scene before their eyes, they all unconsciously frowned. On the street, everyone was in chaos. Everyone was holding their heads in pain, and the blue flames were still burning. They are attacking each other, a boy said tremblingly. Their eyes were emitting blue light. They are monsters. A girl spoke up. Don't tell me it's a dungeon collapse, right? Everyone started to panic. What are we doing? Run away! No, we have to wait for the hunters. The classroom became noisy. Teacher Lim, you are an awakened person. Do something. No, I'm only rank E, so... Suho's eyes widened at something. It was a person infected with blue fire walking on the rooftop. Suddenly he crouched down, then jumped up and prepared to jump. Suho realized and shouted, Run! But it seemed to be too late. He rushed straight into the glass, then breathed out blue fire in a terrifying way. All the students were scared to the point of pale faces, pale as a sheet of blood. Suho shouted, Everyone, run now! A girl was cut by a piece of ceramic trembling on the ground. I can't stand up! Help! Sung Suho struggled mentally when he saw this scene. He closed his eyes tightly, ran away and said, "I'll call a hunter." He ran while feeling restless inside. Damn it, why did I say that? I just abandoned her. But what an unawakened person like me can do is just... Suho closed his eyes again. That damn unawakened thing again. Nothing will change if I keep finding excuses to run away. Sung Suho, you need to do something. Anything. He remembered his father's back again. Father? What will father do? He in his mind gradually turned his head and opened his eyes to look at him. Suddenly, the person infected with the blue fire stopped. The girl saw that and groaned in surprise. She was so scared that tears flowed out, her whole body trembling. The monster with its mouth covered in blood came closer and closer. It rushed over while her friend screamed. Its mouth opened and prepared to take a delicious bite. Luckily, Sung Suho appeared at this moment and smashed the fire extinguisher on its head. His eyes became bright and sharp. If it were his father, he would definitely... Suddenly, at this moment, the system appeared. You have met the requirements to complete the hidden mission. Courage of the weak. There's more, but save it for the next chapter. If you like it, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, comment. It's the energy that keeps the channel alive. Want to know what Suho will do next? Hit the bell. Next chapter will be bloody. See you there.